Hello world, it's Berto Prey 5 Qapla, and welcome to Nitpicking Star Trek Discovery, Season 5, Episode 2, Under Twin Moons. At the end of last episode, Michael just knew the next clue was on this world called Lyra. How did she know? Unclear. So Saru comes to tell Michael the president needs her. This appears to be some type of official debriefing. Actually, it appears to be a trial of sorts, where the captain of the other ship, Captain Rayner, is on trial for his life, not his physical life, not life or death, but for his life as a captain. He be kicked out of Starfleet, possibly, I don't know what, but clearly this was something that was on a calendar. This was a major event. This isn't something like, oh, the president happens to need you, and oh, Saru, you're going to see Michael anyway. So just, by the way, let her know I need to see her. No, you don't pass a message like this along with Saru. This is something that would have been on Michael's calendar, on everybody's calendar that day, and a major to do. So that was very weird. During his defense, which Captain Rayner is apparently not afforded any type of attorney or representative, he's has to be his own defender. Rayner is talking about this red directive, and this is a time we still don't know 100% sure what a red directive is. Does Rayner know? He says it's a technology of unbelievable power being found, used, or sold to the highest bidder. So does Rayner know what this particular red directive is about? Now, I know what it's about because I'm an episode ahead, as you guys might be. But at this point in the episode, we're not 100% sure what this red directive is, and we're not sure who's been told what, because Dr. Kovich didn't want to bring anyone in on this. Michael Burnham was the first person he supposedly explained this situation to, but Captain Rayner seems to know, or at least anytime there's a red directive, that it's a technology of unbelievable power. He seems to know enough. Michael comes to book after this meeting and brings a fake mouse toy, which looks very similar to a remote controlled mouse toy one might have in 2024 or even maybe 10, 15 years ago, which is really old tech for the future. But Mike Book's cat, who's, remember, is just called the Queen or a queen, doesn't give a shit about this mouse. Why is this mouse even a toy? The mouse could just as easily been a hologram, since we know from previous episodes that all rooms on the Discovery have hologram projectors. Michael should have just made a mouse as a hologram, and no, it's a physical mouse that's remote controlled, but the cat doesn't give a shit about chasing the mouse. And Michael said, don't worry, it wasn't for the cat, it was for Book. It was a toy for Book to play with rather than for the cat to play with. Whatever, fine. I don't care. We also find out it's going to be Saru's last mission for a while, and that Saru actually had a nickname, Action Saru. And Michael is under the belief that Booker gave the nickname to Saru, Action Saru. We find out that it wasn't Booker who gave the nickname, it was for reasons, whatever. He explains it. I don't know. Because Saru had his ganglia that turned into darts, and they'll come up later in this episode. I guess that's the reason. But okay, so Saru has been debating whether or not he was going to stay on Discovery as first officer or go and become an ambassador at the request of the president, which would let him stay at Federation headquarters and presumably marry his Vulcan friend, the president of Vulcan. And wait, it's not called Vulcan. Forgive me. It's not called Vulcan anymore for reasons unknown, for bullshit reasons. They decided to rename the planet Vulcan to the planet Navarre. You need to understand. It's not that they changed planets. Okay, the planet Vulcan still exists. It is the same physical planet that they've been on this entire time. But because the Romulan planet exploded, in this timeline, the Romulans lost their planet. It blew up. And the Romulans that are left later in the seasons, the Romulans later in the series have reunified with the Vulcans. And after they reunified, they decided that they didn't want to be called Vulcan anymore, because even though all the Vulcans in the universe still came from Vulcan, and whatever Romulan survived the Romulan supernova, they have also become citizens of quote-unquote Vulcan, but instead of keeping it named Vulcan, they decided to give it a new name representing the fact that the Romulans and Vulcans have recombined into a single race. So they now call Navarre. So the president of Navarre and Saru are getting married, and Saru needs to figure out what he's doing. Now, at last episode, if Saru married the Vulcan, she is still a Vulcan. The president of Navarre is a Vulcan, not a Romulan. Even though they've combined the worlds, they have not combined the species yet. So it's fair to say, Saru is marrying a Vulcan from Navarre, who's the president of Navarre, which is just crazy. If you're going to reunify the planet, why not reunify the species, whatever? So Saru is marrying the president of Navarre, and it felt like he would be leaving. It felt like he would be leaving, which would make sense. He would leave Discovery, he'd become an ambassador, and that would be that. He'd have a new life. But somewhere between last episode and the end of this episode, we get the story that Saru is only going to leave for a while. That even though he's going to be an ambassador, that it's a temporary mission, and that he'll eventually be back on Discovery. And that just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense that you're going to hold his job for him. So the Discovery arrives at the world Lyra, where a double solar eclipse is happening once every 7 years, and it happens to be happening just as they got there. How convenient. This is not the first, but one of many double, triple, quadruple, quintuple plot conveniences and contrivances that we are going to have all season long. The Discovery instantaneously arrives at Lyra when they are in the middle of a once in every 7 years double solar eclipse. And imagine how convenient it was for the advertising that this episode was also happening while a solar eclipse was about to take place on Earth, just as this episode was going to air. So Saru notices the beam down coordinates are far from the target. And Tilly's, yeah, unfortunately, there's this weirdly strong electromagnetic field that prevents beaming. So even 1,000 years in the future, they're still going to go with we can't beam down. We can't beam down to where we need to go because some electromagnetic field is preventing beam down. So this happens all the time in Trek. You can't beam down to where you need to go because if you could, there really wouldn't be a story. Fair enough. So what do? You're either going to take a shuttle down, and if you take the shuttle down, you know the shuttle is going to crash anyway. So fine. So what are you going to do? You're going to beam down, and you're going to have to walk for 20 miles to get to your target. And that's fine. But we were been reminded that in this future, everybody carries an Iron Man suit in their comm badge. Michael Burnham had it last episode that she happened, while you're fighting in a spaceship, you happen to fall through a portal gun and end up in space, and instantaneously your Iron Man suit comes out and you're perfectly safe. Michael Burnham and Saru, who, by the way, why would the captain and first officer be the only people beaming down to the surface? We've had many years of Trek. We've learned it is policy that the captain stays with the ship. The first officer is the one who generally beams down and leads an away mission. But Michael Burnham, she likes to be the one who does the action. So then fine. So then Michael should beam down and Saru should stay with the ship. There is never a reason for your first officer and your captain to beam down. And they're the only ones going on this away mission. Just Michael Burnham and Saru. No security. No security. They're only going on this mission so we get to see Michael Burnham and Saru talk about the old days. Whatever. But Adira is like, yeah, so there's an electromagnetic field. It prevents beaming. So Adira is, you'll have to walk from there. Why doesn't anybody think we can just beam down, turn on the Iron Man suit, and fly where we need to go? The suit's got a jetpack. We've seen it. You can fly anywhere you need to go. It's easy. But no, they're going to tread lightly. Michael gives the order to tread lightly. Of course, as soon as they get down there and they see that there's a machine already down there ready to blow them up, ready to shoot at them, I assume the tread lightly directive is out the window. So they get down there, they walk the slow route to where they need to go, and all of a sudden they see dead bodies. Now, these are really bodies. Now, last episode, we saw 800-year-old Romulan bodies that had barely decayed. They were left in a ship that had life support on, and yet they did not decay. Now, these are bodies that were left in a forest, and they were just bones. Now, I know you're going to say, oh, the animals got to them. But they didn't, because this planet has no animal life. No animal life. There was no animal life detected. So how did these bodies decay into just bones But the other bodies that were even older on the ship, they didn't decay at all. Whatever, doesn't matter in the scheme of things. So they decide right away that these bodies are actually grave robbers. Who's to say they're grave robbers? They could have been anybody, but that's it. Michael decided they're grave robbers, and that's it. They're done. We get Michael and Saru talking, making jokes. Did you just make a pun? Blah, blah, blah. And we got Adira and Tilly talking about stuff up on the Discovery. And it's sickening because all they're talking about, Adira is like talking about her love life, and her love life is Gray. Adira and Gray, they were 15 years old when they came into the Discovery story. Okay? Maybe she's 18 now, 17, 18. Nobody gives a shit. Okay? This is your boyfriend when you were 15 years old. Who is worried about, was she going to marry her boyfriend who was when they were 15? That's not a real relationship. Why are they dedicating time in Star Trek Discovery? Right? This would be like if Wesley Crusher was crying at losing his girlfriend. I think Jake Sisko was really upset when his Dabo girlfriend broke up with him. But this is a joke. This isn't real. There is no real feeling here. Who gives a shit, Adira? You're fucking 15 or 16 years old. Get over it. Get over it. And the fact that your quote-unquote true love is the worst Trill ever. Okay? Because they died. They became part of the Trill. They should have lived forever as part of the Trill that is now hosted in your body. For some reason, you were allowed to get a Trill. But then Gray decided that Gray shouldn't have died. So they came back to life as Discovery characters happen to do, like Dr. Kolber, who himself is a sickening person who should have been dead, but was back from mushrooms. How did he get back from being dead and died, and then the mushroom people brought him back? Oh my God. Fuck. Anyway, it's awful. It's awful. Michael and Saru are now trapped on the planet. Tilly and Adira are working on trying to fix the transporter to get around the magnetic field. Like right now, like if they thought they could fix it, why didn't they wait till they beam down? But now when seconds count, they're really trying really hard to figure out what's going on. Still, Michael and Saru don't remember that they have Iron Man suits. They're under attack. They're under attack by flying drones on the planet, but none of them remember that they have Iron Man suits. The Iron Man suits have shields, they have weapons, but nobody puts them on. All of a sudden, Captain Raynor forces himself into the science room where Adira and Tilly were trying to figure out how to solve the problem. Captain Raynor, as a hologram, just forces himself into the room to teach them how to figure out how to solve their problem. How did they think? What did they have access to? What technology they have access to? And he starts ordering around Discovery's computer to try to figure things out. And what technology did they use for their ships? And Zora, the Discovery computer, Discovery's Alexa, they used this tech and that tech. and they used electromagnetic waves. I'm like, oh shit, electromagnetic waves, just like the electromagnetic wave that was keeping them from beaming down. Shit. Now everybody's on the hunt for electromagnetic waves, even though everything is an electromagnetic wave. Light is an electromagnetic wave. So Tilly's, but now we know the electromagnetic wave is what's powering the field that the drones are flying in. No shit. I could have told you electromagnetic had anything. Okay? Saru's shirt and helmet and uniform. Saru's uniform has lights on it. The lights are like blinking, but it's broken. The lights are shitty. The uniform lights are clearly broken in real life. His in real life uniform has like a bad wire, a bad connection, and it's clearly blinking, and they don't want it to be blinking, but they can't fix it. So they decided to just roll with it. It's okay, all pretend we don't see his uniform blinking. And they're like, well, maybe we can make the best of it. I notice it, and it doesn't make any sense. Anyway, of course, Adira and Tilly and Captain Rayner are able to figure out the problem in 60 seconds. All of a sudden, it's enough. And then Saru is being chased by the drones and his spikes. Remember, he has the spikes he can launch from his neck. They used to be there to shoot at biological beings on his home planet, like a scorpion might be able to sting another animal. He actually has spikes. But now we see those spikes, which were darts, like biological darts he could shoot. They're able to take out a metal drone. They're able to take out a flying technological drone made out of metal. It's crazy. It's not only are they darts, they're actually missiles. Oh, they're also talking about figuring out that the Romulans, they got to figure out this last piece, the next piece of the puzzle. And there's apparently Romulans have a poem that always has 5 stanzas, but they've only found 4 stanzas. And the 4th stanza says to go to Beta Z. But the 5th stanza is missing. But of course, Michael and Saru, they're the only ones smart enough to realize that the 5th stanza is missing. For whatever reason, the bad guys didn't look for the 5th stanza, maybe because they were under attack. I don't know. But Michael and Saru remember that Romulans, especially Romulans of this era, 24th century, they used to hide everything, even the fact their homes. And this is something we learned on Star Trek Picard, and you would think it was so stupid we would never hear it again. But here it is again, that old Romulan houses, they used to have fake front doors. All the real entrances are in the back of the house. So they decided, oh, that means the real stanza is on the back of the rock. Of course, there wasn't anything there, but Saru uses his super strength, his Kelpian strength, to move the rock. And sure enough, below the rock is the 5th stanza. And not only that, there's a piece of rock that's clearly a piece of technology that was meant to be taken. Despite taking this piece, which would prevent anyone being the second person, anyone else coming down after them and getting this vital clue to where they have to go next, Michael and Saru put the rock exactly back where it was so that nobody would even think to see that there was a missing piece below it. And then the system, the defense system that is there to protect the planet from grave robbers, starts shooting at Saru and Michael just an instant before they finally beam up to Discovery. The system designed to protect itself was attacking itself and was shooting at itself. Michael, before leaving, tells the Discovery crew to send down a team of dots, which are the worker drones, the Discovery worker drones, and have them repair the graves. Team of dots to fix the stone monuments desecrated by phaser fire. But it was the monuments themselves that were the cause of the phaser fire. And if the dots are going down to fix the destruction caused by the monuments, why wouldn't the monuments attack the dots? Who is to say the dots? Why would the dots not cause why would the dots not cause the same type of attack that they were shooting at Michael and Saru? Michael asks as soon as she's back up on the Discovery, Michael asks Zora, Discovery AI, can she make a piece of the programmable matter? Because they were talking about this clue, and in the diary was this drawing, and they ask her, hey, can you make that drawing into a piece of programmable matter? So basically, can they replicate this? And Zora says, sure, and creates this piece, which is like a puzzle piece. And the thing is, though, how does Zora know what size to make it? She has nothing. There's a drawing that nothing says what the actual size is. Maybe it's in Romulan and it says 1 inch equals 1.2 cubits. So maybe she just happens to know what size to make it. But sure enough, she makes this piece from programmable matter, and this piece of rock that Michael pulled out from under the rock that Saru had moved just happens to fit into the piece that Zora created perfectly to the millimeter. And clearly there's more pieces ready to come. I think I counted 5 pieces in total. I don't know if this is the first of 5, or I don't know if there's going to be 6 in total or 5 in total. But clearly this is the rest of the season. Is each episode they're going to pick up a piece to fit into their map. So it's a map clue. And of course, if you read the puzzle now, instead of Beta Z, it's Trill. It's Trill, which is conveniently where Adira's long lost love, Gray, is. So the next, and Adira is the one to say, we're going to Trill. We're going to Trill, where she'll get to see Gray and the entire planet. The clue. The clue is just Trill. It doesn't say where on Trill. It didn't say where on Beta Z when they thought it was Beta Z. It's just the planet. They're going to go to the planet, and they're going to figure somebody there is going to be waiting for them and know exactly where to go on the planet. It makes somebody would have been waiting to get there for thousands of years. Who has been waiting for thousands of years? Does anybody know? Anybody have a clue on where we've got to go? And guess what? You know what? Even though it doesn't happen this episode, absolutely they do. Absolutely they do. Yeah, anybody looking, by the way, anybody looking for a secret item that nobody's, there is? Yeah, just come to the planet. We'll be able to tell you where you need to go. So Booker is in his quarters and he's looking at a still shot of the bad guys, and he asks Zora to de-age the photo of Mal, who's the young woman, down age her to 7 years and 3 months old. Oddly specific time, and Zora does it. Zora de-ages like it was some sort of AI to a weird, 7 years and 3 months old. How does Zora know to change the hairstyle and the hair color? Okay, maybe Zora's the prevailing hairstyle at the time would have been this, but how did Zora know that she would go from a blonde to a brunette? Very weird. Lots of questions. Not a lot of good answers. Anyway, after Book down ages this very questionable down age, Dr. Goldberg just walks in. Now I'm thinking maybe he gets a notice, like anytime somebody uses AI tech to de-age an adult to a child, maybe he gets maybe you want to check in on this person just in case. But Colbert doesn't seem like, he seems like he just happened to come at a good time. And he finds out that, according to Book, that this girl is the last family he has, even though it's not technically his family. She was the daughter of the guy whose name Booker took. So Book's real name isn't Book, or he goes by the name Cleveland Booker, but he was never named that. He was the name he took. Just like the Dread Pirate Roberts from not Wonder Years, Fred Savage movie, ROUSs. I don't think they exist. Princess Buttercup, The Princess Bride. The Dread Pirate Roberts. From the Princess Bride, we find out there really was, the Dread Pirate Roberts wasn't the person we knew. It was some guy that was probably kill you in the morning. And then he let the whole crew go, and he stayed around, and he started calling the guy the Dread Pirate Roberts. But then he went and he retired. It was more important that the name carry on than the actual person. So apparently that's what was happening with Booker. But the actual daughter of the man before him is Mal. And so he knew her once, apparently, when she was 7 years and 3 months old. And then we get Saru and Michael in Saru's quarters. Now, apparently, it's the same room Saru has been in since season 2 of Discovery. And it's weird because wasn't this whole ship refit when it got to the future and it became the 1031-A? And yet we're supposed to believe that the same plants and whatnot that were planted in his room are still there. And his room is half a fucking swamp. And even though he's leaving the ship, Michael is not going to let anything happen to his quarters because she's convinced he'll be back. So what should be perhaps the second biggest quarters on the entire ship is going to be left more or less vacant, except somebody's going to keep watering the plant. A tremendous waste of space. And Michael tells Saru he'll be welcome back anytime, but he's also now, we're fully convinced that this is just a temporary assignment. Saru says, yes, he'll be back. Why would he be back? That doesn't make any sense. He should say, Michael, you've got to clear out this room. I'm not planning on coming back. So then we get the absolute most ridiculous part of this episode, where Michael has to go visit Vance of Admiral Vance of Vance Refrigeration and decide to offer the job of number one, which is what I want you to be my number one. Stupid. No, the job is first officer. I want you to be my first officer. That's what she should have said. And who does she offer it to? Tilly would be stupid enough. To Captain Raynor, who was thrown out of Starfleet. He was asked to take retirement. He was asked to take early retirement. And instead, Michael Burnham brings him back as her first officer. Earlier, Michael Burnham just threw him completely classified intel. Like all of a sudden, Michael Burnham is telling anybody, oh yeah, we're headed to Trill. We're headed to Trill. This should have been super, super secure intel. That means people would die. People would die to know where Discovery was going next. And Michael's just throwing it around. Oh yeah, we happen to be going to Trill. This guy could have been the bad guy. You don't know. You don't know. So Michael Burnham tries desperately hard to get Captain Raynor to be first officer. And out of nowhere, he accepts. And I'm sorry. I don't believe it. I don't believe a man who had as much going for him as Captain Raynor did is going to ever accept being second fiddle to Michael Burnham. You just don't. It's not something you do. Listen, I don't believe for a second Captain Kirk would ever come back as someone else's first officer. You don't. You have a ship of your own. Do you think that Captain Kirk would come back as someone else's first officer and let the Enterprise continue on? Okay, so say the Enterprise continued on under Spock and all that. But Kirk? No. Kirk isn't going to go become someone else's first officer. He'd say, fuck that. If I'm out of Starfleet, so be it. I'm going to fucking retire and I'm going to fucking ride my horses and I'm going to live my life I've been putting on hold all this time. I'm not going to go back to be someone else's first officer. Fuck that. I'm sorry. As much as I love Captain Raynor, and I do, I like him. He's a good guy, but he's done. He needs to hang up. And there is no way I'd believe this man would ever go back to being Michael Burnham's second in command. I'm sorry. And instead of his last words being, fuck you, we get this, I'm not a yes man. Not a yes man. This episode, it hurt. It hurt. It really did. I don't know what else to say. We'll be back. We'll be back for the third episode, which, yes, I've already seen, and somehow it's even worse. It's even worse than this one. Oh, man. A Fast Crash. Episode 1, the best of the 5th season so far. And that was still a terrible episode. 2 was worse than 1, and 3 is going to be worse than 2. I don't know when I'll see 4, but I'm not looking forward to it. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Please subscribe, share, and I will see you again. Qapla.